Pleasant greetings to you all students. Welcome or welcome back again to another video review lesson from the AP3X Institute of Mathematics Education in courtesy with Manchester Institute of Learning that is located in Mandeville, Manchester, Jamaica. And in today's video tutorial review paper or review lesson, I'm going to be walking you through the solutions to most recently concluded tri-weekly exam that was conducted on October the 8th through to October the 15th with the current students who are now in preparation for the exams coming up in 2025. This is in fact a variety of questions that is coming from the fundamental aspects of math. We're going to be targeting specific areas in the fundamental aspects of a student's preparation. Now, these students are students that are from different walks of life. They have different skill levels. Some students have not done math for a while. Some haven't done it for years. Some have attempted the exam and has not been successful. So the main objective of the students that I'm currently preparing is to give them the rock solid foundation that they need in order to propel themselves towards getting that distinct grade that they so desire. Now, of course, in this practice paper, this paper was designed by yours truly, and these questions were constructed with specific objectives to target fundamental aspects of a student's learning curve at the moment. And so the target here is to the aim here is to test and assess if students are recollecting information from fundamental concepts such as integers, order of operations, knowing how to use the different functions on the calculator, approximation and rounding off, direct and indirect proportion, fractional operations, arranging numbers in ascending and descending order, conversions from fractions to decimals to percentage, and of course, last but not least, we're going to be targeting the concept of ratio and proportion. Now, in this particular paper here, I'll be aiming my primary focus here is to provide students not only with one but at least more than one methods, if possible, to find the solution to this question. So hopefully at the end of this particular tutorial, students will be able to see where their errors were in terms of their approach, and of course take the corrections and move forward into the next assessment to improve their consistency and improve the consistency in their knowledge application. Now, the instructions on this paper is pretty clear. It is in fact to answer all questions and show working where necessary to acquire full marks. I've already conducted this exam with 3 groups of my students and the papers have already been marked. Currently, I have to say sadly, the pass mark was set at 45. So as a cohort of students, the pass mark for the group of students has not reached that target. So definitely it is clear that the students that are currently being prepared are at a certain level where definitely they need a little bit more in-depth explanation with these concepts. All right, but of course, you know guys, practicing is important, and from here on out, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be learning from our own mistakes so that we can improve going forward. All right, so the whole entire exam is marked out of a total of 45 points, and the duration of this exam is approximately 1.5 hours. So without further ado, let's jump right into the review paper here. Before we do so, do not forget to hit the like button, guys. It really does help the channel to grow, and of course spread this channel across the Caribbean math community. Of course, leave your comments, suggestions, thoughts, questions in the comment section, and of course do not forget to share this out to your math community. So let's dive right on in here and get into the results and solutions for this paper. Now, in question number 1 here, we are asked to write the exact value of 4 minus 9 minus 3 minus 8 minus 11 plus 17, and you are awarded 2 points for that question. So let's skip to a blank page here. It is 4 minus 9 minus 3 minus 8. So that is 4 minus 9 minus 3 minus 8. I believe it was minus 11. Let me just double check on that. Pardon me, guys. So I think it was minus 11. After the minus 8, it was minus 11, right, and plus 17. All right, so to approach this question without the use of a calculator, guys, the objective here is to place the numbers into groups of 2. Now, as I'm going through the paper, I'm going to be also highlighting you, my online audience here, with common errors that I've seen students have made in the past and also on this paper, and so it can prevent you from doing the same thing as well. So here, I'm going to go ahead then, I'm going to place these into groups of 2. Here. And here and here. All right, and from here then we go ahead and we can either use our calculator to type the numbers in each bracket to bring down the solutions, or we can use that method, owing and having. So for me, I like to work without the calculator as much as possible. So 4 take away 9, that is in fact 4 is an amount that you have. The negative 9 is an amount that is owed or an amount that is borrowed. So therefore, if you're only able to pay back 4 out of the 9 that was borrowed, it simply means then you would have had, or you would have owed an amount of 5. In the next bracket here, we owe an amount of 3 and we owe an amount of 8. So together we owe an amount of 11. All right, and then of course we have minus 11 plus 17. That is in fact you owe an amount of 11 and you have an amount of 17. By paying the amount that is owed, then you will see that you have remaining over a balance of 6. Well, you have an amount of 6 left over. Proceeding here to bracket in the next two, you owe an amount of 5 and you owe an amount of 11. So now you end up owing an amount here of 16 plus 6. And finally here, you now owe an amount of 16 and you have an amount of 6. By paying the amount that you currently have, you will still owe an amount of 10. That is negative 10. And that there gives you your final solution to that particular question there. All right, nice. So that would have acquired there 2 points. So let's then move on to the second question that is valued 3 marks. This is aimed at testing whether students remember how signs react when they clash. So we therefore have 13 take away negative 9 plus negative 3. So that is 13 take away negative 9 plus negative 3. All right, and then we're going to have negative negative 2 plus 9. So that is negative negative 2 plus 9, and I believe it was plus minus 11. Yes, it is. So that's plus minus 11. Now, when you get a problem like this where you have to manually show working for the solution, the best bet here is to get rid of the clashes first. So you want to go ahead and take care of the sign clashes here. So we know that a negative with a negative gives us a positive, and a positive with a negative gives us a negative, and a negative clashes with a negative gives us another positive, and a positive clashes with a negative gives us a negative. So by rewriting the problem, then we're going to end up with 13 plus 9 take away 3 plus 2 plus 9 minus 11. And then we end up with a problem that is very similar to how we approach question 1. So we're going to proceed then to put these into groups of 2, here and here, and also here and here. Okay, so now in bracket number 1, very obvious solution there, 13 plus 9 is in fact 22. And in second bracket here, we have owe an amount of 3, but we only have an amount of 2 that we can pay. So by paying the 2 that you now have, you will still owe an amount of 1. Remember, owing and having method, Of course, if you guys would like a full tutorial video on that, a link will be pinned in the comments that will take you to that lesson where I explicitly explained how it is that you work with signs using this owing and having technique, a very useful technique that helps students manually to do calculations without the use of a calculator. Proceeding, then we end up with having an amount of 9 and owing an amount of 11. Then of course, by paying the 9 that we now have, we still owe an amount of 2. Putting this in bracket here, we end up with 22 take away 1, that's going to give us 21, and 21 take away 2 will give us an amount of 19. And that is our solution. So guys, if you have done the solution, or if you've done the question and you've gotten both solution, thumbs up to you. If you guys have also been attempting the questions by pausing the video and then unpausing the video to see what my solutions are, thumbs up to you as well. And of course, just do make note of the error that you would have made on your paper, and then of course, going forward, should you see this again, you will be able to ace these types of questions. Remember guys, that the questions that we are working from this paper are fundamental exam questions. They're not necessarily CSET questions as yet, but they are building your fundamentals for the future here. All right, beautiful. So let's go right ahead then and have a look at example, question number, part B of question number 1. Now we end up having to evaluate the cube root of 0.00512 multiplied by 2.5 raised to the power of a half, all divided by 25. Now, once you have gotten that solution, then we would have gotten 3 marks. Hence, we're going to be taking that answer that we have arrived at, and we're going to be rounding the answer off to 1, 3 decimal places, 2, 1 significant figure, 3, we're going to be writing the answer in standard form. Now, one thing that I did in fact recognize with the students, and whilst I was marking the paper, quite a few students, and you yourself might realize that you have a challenge in finding the different button functions on the calculator. Now, my device that I'm using here, it has somewhat of a scientific calculator on it, a programmed scientific calculator. So I'm going to pull that calculator up in a second here, and we're going to be showing you where these buttons are. All right, so I do find that many students have a challenge in fact using the calculator. Remember, if you're an advanced student, then obviously this video is not for you. It is for a student who genuinely wants to learn these very basic fundamental concepts in math here. So let's just rewrite that question on screen. It is the cube root. So it is the cube root of 0.00512, and that's going to be subtracted. Is it subtracted? I think it's multiplied. Pardon me, guys. I'm so sorry. Let me grab my eraser here. Alright, so it is multiplied by 2.5 raised to the power of a half. And that will be all divided by 25. So if I grab my calculator here and I were to go ahead and insert the cube root of 0.00512, so that's going to be, press this button here, that's my cube root button, that's the third button in the first row. That's going to be the cube root of 0.00512. You'll find here that the answer is in fact 0.17235 continuous. Now, I like to tell my students to write down approximately 4 decimal places. So if you want to round off, you can say 0.1724 or 0.1723. Either answer is fine. So that is 0.1724 rounded off to 4 decimal places. All right, we're then going to go ahead and proceed to multiply this by 2.5 raised to the power of a half. Now, quite a few students I saw that they in fact misinterpreted 2.5 raised to the power of a half as 2.5 multiplied by a half. So you have to be aware, guys, of how the questions are written. 2.5 multiplied by 1 over 2 is not the same thing as 2.5 raised to the power of a half. All right, I kind of felt like many students did in fact multiply it by a half because they did in fact struggled to raise a number to a fractional quantity. So let me show you how we do that, guys. Let's clear our screen here. We have 2.5 and then we're going to press our power button. So now on my calculator, my power button on this calculator here is x to the power of y. So that is x to the y. There it brings up that arrow. So on your calculator, you might see that arrow button as well. So that is how you raise a number to the power of whatever quantity, perhaps mostly greater than 3, and of course raising a number to a fractional index or a decimal index. Now for some calculators, unlike mine here, where it automatically opens the bracket, for some of you guys, you will have to open your bracket as well. And it's very important that you insert the bracket, because if you don't, you're asking the calculator to do a different function than what you intend. So that bracket 1 divided by 2 and close the bracket. Well, for my calculator, I don't have to close the bracket, but for yours, you will have to close the bracket as well. You'll find here that the answer is 1.5811. So that is 1.5811, 1.5811, all divided by 25 here. All right, guys. So we're going to calculate then, and we were to go ahead and say here 0.1724, so that's going to be cleared. That's 0.1724 multiplied by 0.1, let's double check, 0.1, well, not 0.1 but 1.5811. So that's 1.5811, so that's multiplied by 1.5811, and then we end up with 0.2725. So that's 0.2725 all divided by 25. I'm the type of instructor that encourages students to do the math problem in steps, because when you type everything onto the calculator, when you close your book and you pick it up in a few weeks time, you won't remember what you did. So it's important that you give yourself an advantage to always be able to look back at your previous calculation and be able to use that to reteach or reinforce lessons that was taught to you here. And so by dividing this then here, we're going to go ahead and press equal. We're going to divide this by 25. So that's 0.0109. So 0.0109. So that is pardon me guys, so that's 0.0109. So that is 0.0109. all right, so this alone will give you 3 marks by showing the steps, and then of course we're going to be taking this value here and we're going to be rounding it off to a certain number of decimal places and significant figures. So let's just erase the top here, since you guys have already had that working out. So now we're going to go ahead and write down this number 0.0109. And so the first question here asks us to, the first question here has asked us to round this off to 3 decimal places for 1 mark. Write your answer correctly to 3 dp. So to 3 dp, then we know that the third decimal position in this number here is in fact the 0. So we're gonna draw the line here, check the digit that comes after. This digit is in fact greater than 5, so we'll then add 1 to 0, that is adding 1 to this 0 here, and we're going to end up with 0.011. That is your answer, rounded off to 3 decimal places here. All right, and if we also take that same number once again here, that's 0.0109, and we're going to round this off to 1 significant figure. So that's one significant figure. Now the first significant digit here is 1. Remember, in our live online session, which a link is pinned in the comments to take you back to that approximation and decimal places class, we did in fact discuss the importance of understanding when 0 is significant versus when it's insignificant. Now in this case here, the first two zeros won't be counted in our rounding process because they appear before the 1, so they are in fact insignificant. However, the 0 in between the 1 and the 9 is significant because it appears after the 1. So therefore my first significant digit here is in fact 1. By drawing the line here, I'll check the digit that comes after. This digit is in fact less than 5. So we're just going to be ignoring the 0 and the 9. And so our final result here is 0.01 here. All right. And then, of course, we're going to take that same number again. That is 0.0109. And we're going to be writing this number here in standard form. Now, if we can recall from that lesson that we had done, we said that standard form is the only rounding off technique where you are allowed to interfere with the location of the point. And so in this case here, the objective is to move the point to a specific location. And the location of this point here is to move the point in the direction of where the first non-zero digit is. So we're going to be moving the point in front the first non-zero digit or between the first two significant digit here. So that is in fact going to be 1, 2. That's where we're going to be leaving the point. So the new number then is going to be 1.09 multiplied by, standard form is a base 10 number. So it's going to be always times 10. And so we need to raise the 10 to a power. Now, the power to which we raise the 10 to is dependent upon how many places we move the point, as well as the direction that we move the point. So here we jumped 2 places to our right, and according to the principle of standard form, if you move your point to the right, then you'll find that the power is going to be a negative result. For example, here we're going to have -2. But if we happen to have to move the point to the left, then our integer value is going to be a positive value here. So in this case here, we move the point towards the right 2 places. So the answer is 1.09 times 10 to the -2. Now there was an additional instruction here that says that they want it to be in standard form as a whole number. So as a whole number, then we would have to do a little bit of a rounding off here. That's why it's worth 2 marks. It's an additional rounding off here. Pardon me here, guys. So an additional rounding off. The whole number starts or stops at the point. So we're going to take here and we're going to draw a line right at the point here. Check the digit that comes after. This digit is of course less than 5. So we're just going to ignore the 0 and 9. So the correct answer that I was looking for was in fact 1 times 10 raised to the -2. But of course, I did pardon my students, and if they had written down 1.09 times 10 to the -2, then I would have given them full marks. All right, that is just a little bit of leniency that I offer to my set of students. All right, so great, we have completed question number 1, guys, already. If you have not hit the like button and you've reached this far into the video, please be sure to hit that like button and help the channel to grow. Do not forget to share this out to other students who you know might be struggling and is in need of dire help when it comes to mastering the concepts, the mathematical concepts under the CXC math curriculum. All right, let's continue then and dive on into, say here, question number 2. Now in question number 2 here, we are now required then to evaluate and write your answer as a single fraction to its lowest term. All right, now with a question of this nature, right, generally when CSEC gives you a question of this manner here, it is in fact a 2-part question. Now what CSEC has done here is that they have given you a fractional quantity, but the numerator of, okay, so all of this here is a fractional quantity, but in the numerator there is a fraction problem to work out, and in the denominator there's also a fraction problem to work out. So I generally expect and encourage my students to label the question in sections. We're going to call the top part here A, and we're going to call the bottom part here B. And so once we have acquired the answer for the problem in the A section, and we've acquired the answer for the problem in the B section, we're then going to divide the result of the A section by the result of the B section. So then let's transfer the question to a blank paper here. We have 4 3/5 minus 3 2/7. So we have, say here, let me just erase. So we have 4 3/5. Let me just use a different color, something more appealing to the eye here. Okay, so we have 4 3/5 minus 3 2/7 here. All right, so this is the A part of the problem. Now, once we have set our problem up for evaluation, when we see a mixed fraction, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're going to be multiplying the denominator. So we're going to be taking the 5 at the bottom here, and we're going to be multiplying it by the number at the side here. Then we're going to be adding the numerator to the result. So 5 multiplied by 4 is 20. 20 plus 3 is 23 over 5. Take away 7 multiplied by 3, that's going to give us 21. 21 plus 2, that's going to also give us 23, but it's going to be over 7. Now, once we are adding or we are subtracting 2 or more fractions, then step number 2 here is to find the LCM. So the LCM here is going to be, in fact, to multiply the denoms. That is 5 times 7, which is 35. Okay, let's just write that a little better. All right, so 5 divides into 35. So how many groups of 5 can we get from 35? That's approximately 7. And how many groups of 7 can we get from 35? That's approximately 5. So 23 times 7, that should give us approximately 161. And 5 multiplied by 23, that should give us 100 and, say here, 15. So by doing the basic subtraction here on our calculator or mentally, we should end up with a result here of 46 over 35. So this then would be our solution for the A section of the problem then. All right. Now, once you have done that, then we can look at working out the B section. So let's just label this the A section then. Let's move on then to the B section. It's not much working out for the B section. Let's go back to this page here. The B section says 2 multiplied by 1 and 9 over 14. So let's go here. That is 2. Okay, so that is, let me just zoom up here a second, guys. Give me a sec. So that's going to be 2 multiplied by 1 and 9 over 14. So it's going to be 2 over 1 multiplied then by 14 times 1 is 14. So we times here and then we add the 9. So that's 14 times 1 is 14 plus 9. That's going to give us 23 again. 23 seems to be very repetitive in this question over 14. All right. Now at this stage here, we have options. We can actually go ahead and reduce the fraction to make it more simpler to work with, or as quite a few of my students did, they did in fact just multiply numerator with numerator and denominator with denominator. I strongly encourage you to work with smaller numbers if you can. So in this case here, I'm going to cross the 2 out and put 1. So 2 into itself 1 times, and 2 into 14 goes 7 times. Remember, guys, that you cannot cancel a numerator with a numerator nor a denominator with a denominator. It has to be a numerator being exactly divisible into a denominator. So here we end up with a solution here of 23 over 7 here. All right, and this becomes the answer for the B section. Now, as promised, guys, we're going to be taking the answer for the B section of the problem here. Let's go up to this section of the page here, guys. Oops, pardon me. Okay, guys, let's take our time. So we have 46 divided by 35, and that will be, of course, divided by 23 over 7. Now, there's a method that I've constantly hear a lot of my new students been using. They call it the KFC method. All right, whilst a lot of persons already know that we just simply change the sign and reciprocate the last fraction, many students find unique ways of helping themselves to remember. So my students say that they're going to keep the first fraction, they're going to change the second fraction, change the sign, pardon me, and they're going to flip the last fraction. So for me, I think this is the KCF method, but just to make it more simplified, they call it the KFC method. So they keep, flip, and change. So we keep, that's going to be 46 over 35, change to multiplication, and flip, that's going to be 7 over 23. All right. And so, of course, just like in part B here, we're looking for something to cancel, to reduce. Now, it's very evident here that 7 will be able to go into itself 1 time, and 7 will be able to go into 35 5 times. And if you look again closely, 23 is exactly divisible into 46 2 times. 23 times 2 is 46. So by the cancellation here, we end up with a really nice, solid answer of 2 divided by 5. All right, and that is how you would evaluate that problem there. So let me know in the comments, guys, were you successful on your first try? Where did you make your error? Did you get any clarity? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Let's engage and get better in the math problems here. All right, so let's move on then to, I believe, part 2b. Is there a part B to this? There is in fact a part B. So, well, there is a part II, pardon me. So the fraction was part 2ai, and so the other part of this here is going to be part II. Now, I did make an error here in the typing because, of course, there is no part 3. Part 3 is, well, part 2 is the instruction that's leading us to this question here. So for 3 marks, guys, we are asked to arrange the following decimals or fractions in order of ascension. And ascension in this case here means that we're going to be writing the numbers in order from smallest to largest here. So in order for us to do this successfully, it is a lot easier if we were to convert all our fractions to decimal as opposed to converting the decimals to fraction. Now, it can be done both ways, but as it is for an exam, you want to take the more simpler route here. So here, I'm going to just leave my 0.25 here as 0.25. And so I'm going to go on my calculator and I'm going to convert 7 divided by 9 to a decimal. So by using my calculator here, guys, let's see here. So if I were to go ahead and take out my calculator here, that's going to be 7. Let's clear this. So 7 divided by 9, we'll get 0.777. Now, since as it is that the first value was written to 2 decimal places, we want to also write all our conversions to 2 decimal places. So in this case here, I'm going to convert this 0.777 to 0.78 here. So that's going to be 0.78. So that's 0.78 here. Then of course we already have this 0.6, so that's 0.6 going to be 0.6, add a 0 as a placeholder to ensure that it also has 2 decimal places. 3 divided by 8 here, let's double check that on our calculator, guys. So that's 3 divided by 8, that's going to give us 0.375. if we were to round that off, we'll get 0.38. So that's 0.38, so that's 0.38. And then the last problem here, 11 over 17. 11 over 17, so that's 11 divided by 17. I'm actually just showing you guys what you need to do. If I were doing this by myself, I would have taken a much different approach, but this is like the simplest approach you guys can do by using up your calculator. 11 divided by 17 is 0.647. Round this off is going to be 0.65. 0.65. So 0.65. Alright, now from here, once we have all the numbers written to 2 decimal places, all in decimal values, then it's very easy to visualize these decimal numbers as whole numbers. Now if you want, you could just simply multiply each of these numbers by 100, therefore turning them into a whole number. And then from a whole numbers perspective, it's very easy for any student to state which one is the smallest versus the largest. So from this list of numbers here, it is evident that 0.25 is our lowest, smallest fraction. Our next largest fraction is going to be 0.38, and 0.38 is the conversion of 3 over 8, so that's going to be comma 3 over 8 comma. Then from 0.38 we're going to move to 0.60, which is going to be the 0.6 that we initially had, right? So we want to always write back our solution in the exact format that they gave us. The conversion was just to give us a better perspective as it relates to which one is larger or smaller. But when you're writing your answer, guys, you want to write it back in the original format that was given to you here. So 0.6. From 0.60 we're going to move to 0.65. So that's going to be the conversion of 11 over 17. So that's 11 over 17 here, and then finally we have the final result here of 7 over 9. All right, now if you guys took a different approach and you end up getting the same order, please share it in the comments. Of course, other persons will also fancy your methods as well, so do not forget to share your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. All right, so that has brought us to the end of question 2. Of course, guys, already, if you have not hit that like button, I'm not sure what you're waiting for. Clearly, you can see that my channel is aiming towards developing your skill set, your foundational skill set when it comes to these types of paper. In fact, I have also exam papers that I've designed from last year. A playlist link will be pinned in the description of the video if you want to also just entertain yourselves with more practice questions like these. You can check those videos out. They got quite a bit of views also on the channel, so definitely, guys, check those videos out. They are quite useful to your development and advantage. All right, let's then move on to question 2b, where we're going to be approaching then the PEMDAS operation, the order of operations. Let's just get a clean page here and set this up here. All right, guys, I do have quite a bit of live classes as well. I have classes that I hold on Tuesday night and Thursday night as well, guys. I post those live classes the following day, so whatever I teach on a Tuesday, it is posted Wednesday evening. Whatever I teach on a Thursday, it is posted Friday. Depending on how much work I have to do during the week, how many papers I have to mark, I sometimes will make double post on weekends. If you guys are watching this video for the first time, wherever you are, and you'd like to get in contact with me, you will and can find my contact details in the description. In fact, I'm gonna have it run across the screen here. Here's my WhatsApp number, and here also you can get access to the online live classes anywhere across the Caribbean, anywhere across the world. All right, let's dive right on in here. We end up then with say here let's scroll up. We have 25 take away 3, so that's what we have here. 25 take away 3 open bracket 2 take away 7, so that is 25. So that is going to be 25 take away 3 open bracket 2 take away 7. All right, that's what we have, and that's going to be divided by 5 plus 8 times 4, so that's divided by 5 plus 8 multiplied by 4. Now, when you get a problem like this where you have more than one operands in the same question, it is evident that you're going to have to use the PEMDAS principle. Alright, a lot of you guys are familiar with GEMDAS, BIDMAS, BOMDAS, BODMAS, all different types of maths, all different ways that different teachers bring across the lesson. I find that PEMDAS is just something that I've been using for many years, and it has been effective for more than 65% of my students when it comes to getting this particular type of problem patted down here. Alright, now say here we're going to be working PEMDAS from left to right in the order that it's been listed here. Now I do like and I encourage my students to kind of write the mnemonic down to the side here. So here we're going to do a check off. Are there any P's in the problem? There is. So anything that we're not operating with, we're going to rewrite it down into the next line accordingly. Okay, so here we're not interfering with the 25 as yet. So that's 25 take away 3, and that's going to be working out what is inside the bracket here. Now, bracket implies multiplication, and I saw quite a few students in the latter part of the conduction of this examination. A lot of students did in fact, either they forgot that bracket means to multiply, but they did in fact wrote down some different signs here. So remember that once you see a bracket, whatever is on the outside should be used to multiply the result of what is on the inside here. So that's going to be 3 times the result of 2 take 7. 2 take 7 is -5. Alright, and that's going to be divided by 5 plus 8 times 4. Alright, beautiful. So I strongly encourage students to work the problem in steps, step by step, operation by operation. Of course, some advanced students will be able to do more than one operations at the same time. If you're capable of doing it and you're not going to make an error, then by all means make the problem shorter. But this is for the students who genuinely want to understand how these problems are, or how the answers to these types of questions are derived here. Now there are no e's in the question, there are no numbers that is risen to a power, so we cross that out and move on to multiplication. Now there's always a concern between multiplication and division, as well as addition and subtraction, and the simplest way that I can explain this is in fact, once you have multiplication and division in the same question, then we are going to work the sign from, or we're going to work the problem from left to right, depending on which of the operands are on the left side. So in this case here, reading the problem from left to right, multiplication appears before division, so we'll proceed to multiply, then we divide. There are going to be some situations where division appears before multiplication, and that's when you have to divide before you multiply. But of course guys, if you guys would love to get a more detailed explanation, step-by-step breakdown of how PEMDAS is operated, please click the link that is pinned in the comments along with other useful links to other videos, and you'll get a more in-depth explanation on the order of operations here. So let's just dive right on in here and bracket this -3 with this -5 here. So that's going to be 25 -3 multiplied by -5, that's going to give us +15. And this is one of the many infractions that students committed. They did in fact brought down the minus sign, which causes a chain effect in the answer. You're going to find that when you do this and you do not multiply those two negative signs to get a positive, you end up with an answer of 54 as opposed to the correct answer, which you will then see in a few seconds, few minutes from now. So -3 multiplied by -5 is +15 divided by 5 plus 8 times 4 is 32. Since as I'm already multiplying, I should just do all the multiplication in the problem simultaneously then. All right, so m is now gone. Obviously, we're going to move next to d. So that's going to be 25 plus 15 divided by 5 is 3 plus 32. All right, and so division is gone. There is no subtraction in the problem at the moment, so it's just simply addition that's left. We can simply type that into our calculator at once, or we can go ahead and do it in parts. Once again, 25 plus 3 is 28, and 28 plus 32, that's going to give us a final answer here of 60. All right, beautiful, beautiful question there. Really like how majority of my students, quite a few students, got this question right as well. So that was, showed some knowledge that you guys are in fact learning then. Okay, let's then move on to say here the next question. This negative 13 plus open square bracket. So let's just take that down. That's negative 13. Okay, let's just use a different color ink here. So that's going to be negative 13 plus open square bracket, open curve bracket, 4 multiplied by, well, pardon me, not 4 multiplied by, but 4 open curve bracket. I think I made an error, guys. Hold on. I think it's open square bracket, 4 open curve bracket. All right. And that's going to be 6 take away 3. So that's going to be 6 take away 3 close square bracket times 2 divided by 8 plus 10 times 2 divided by 8 plus 10. All right. So another PEMDAS problem here, testing your ability. I did in fact saw a few questions popping up during the exam where students may have found a little challenge in interpreting what the square bracket and the curve bracket means. Now remember that whether it be a square bracket or a curve bracket, guys, brackets serves one purpose, and that is to group numbers. So I'm pretty much just trying to group the numbers in sections. So it's just a case where you just work the inner curve bracket, then you just work out the outer bracket next here. So all we do then is go ahead and write down our PEM to the side here, PEM. Alright, we're gonna have DAS and do a check off. Are there any P's? Yes, there is. There is 2 P's. There's an inner P and an outer P. So we're gonna have minus 13 plus, then open this square bracket here. We're gonna have this 4, and we're going to work out the inner curve bracket. That is 6 minus 3. That's going to be 3. But remember, we stated earlier that bracket implies multiplication. So that's going to be 4 times 3 here. Let me double check something, guys. I think I may have an error. Let's double check here. Okay, so it's negative 4. Pardon me, guys. So it is negative 4 here. So this was in fact negative 4. Alright, so it's negative 13 plus negative 4 open bracket 6 minus 3 close square bracket here. So this is supposed to be negative 4 here. Alright, beautiful. Times 2 divided by 8 plus 10. Alright, next finish up with this square bracket here. That's negative 13, and then of course we're going to have negative 4 multiplied by 3, and negative multiplied by a positive gives us a negative answer. So this positive clashes with that negative, gives us a negative here. Alright, so that's negative, the result, 12 times 2 divided by 8 plus 10. Alright, another infraction that I saw quite a few students did in fact make is that they broke the rule by subtracting before they multiplied. Remember, guys, after P comes E. If there's no E, then we move to M if M appears before D. And once again, M is on the left, D is on the right. We're going to proceed to multiply here. Alright, let's just put this in a different color so you get the picture. So that's going to be multiplied here and here. Alright, so we have negative 13, okay, and then we're going to have negative 12, pardon me, multiplied by 2, that's negative 24, divided by 8 plus 10. Okay, and then from here now, since M is gone, we're going to move to D then. So D is going to be here, that's going to be here and here, so that's going to be negative 13, and that's going to be negative 24 divided by 8, that's going to be negative 3 plus 10. Alright, now division is gone, we're now left with A and S. Now here's a perfect example of where some students might make the error thinking that they have to add before they subtract. Remember that A and S are of the same priority, so whichever one is on the left, that's the one that you're going to do, followed by the one on the right, if they're tied for priority. So in this case here, tempting to add and say 3 plus 10. Remember that this is not a 3, this is in fact negative 3. So it's easier if you go ahead and you say negative 13 take away 3, that's going to give us negative 16 plus 10. And of course, if you owe an amount of 16 and you have an amount of 10, then you owe an amount of 6 leaving over. You still owe an amount of 6. Or just to make life easier for yourself, guys, under the exam pressure, you can just simply type the final line into your calculator and it will produce the answer of minus 6. Alright, and that takes us into the end of that particular PEMDAS question there. So I do hope that you got some clarity on that and you've seen where you made the error. Of course, going forward, you're going to be seeing many more of these questions, so definitely go ahead and check that out as well. Alright, so let's dive on in here to question number 3. A bakery hires 12 members on staff to clean up the venue after the hosting of a wedding party. Now it is estimated that the job for these members of staff will be completed in approximately 5 hours. Now it so happens that 4 members of staff called in sick and was unable to join the group. How long would it take the remaining staff to get the job done? Now, a lot of my students found this question challenging. And the challenge in this question is not being able to understand, one, whether it's a direct proportional question or an indirect proportional question. And I also find that they found that challenge in remembering that the fundamental rule in solving questions like these is always remember to find the value of one portion. Now, to find the value of one portion, I've explained to all my students that in order to resolve questions like these, you need to write down the initial information provided to you by the question. And so the initial part of this question here stated that 12 members, so that is 12 MEMBERS, will complete the task here in approximately 5 hours. From this stage here, guys, you have to try to find out how long would it take only one member to complete this task. So one member, and here is where students made a mess up the question. One member, students could not recall, and as I said, guys, I'm reviewing this paper because I find that a lot of my students needed a little bit more clarity on the question. They were not able to reason out whether or not they should multiply the 12 by the 5 or divide the 12 by the 5. Remember, with an indirect proportional problem, if one quantity increases in value, then the other quantity will decrease. And if one decreases, then the other will increase. In this case, we have decreased the number of members of staff, so it's obviously going to increase the time taken for this one individual to get the job done. So in this case here, one member will have to take 12 times 5. A lot of students wrote 12 divided by 5 and run away with that answer. That shows that the reasoning skills need work. You need to be able to visualize the question from a realistic point of view. So one member will take approximately 60 hours. All right. Now, 4 members of staff called in sick. That means 12 members were hired initially, 4 called in sick. So we now have a total of 8 members remaining on staff. Now, since we only have a total of 8 members remaining on staff, the 60 hours that one member would take would then be split up into 8, which will therefore then give us a total of 7.5 hours to get this job done, to clean up this venue after the wedding party. All right, so definitely guys, you need to tap in more into the reasoning ability, guys, because these questions are very basic, but as basic as they are, you will also find yourself having huge challenge in getting to your solution consistently. Remember, rule number 1, once you've written down the initial information provided to you about the question, always remember to find the value of 1 share. And it's always 1 share can either be to multiply the values or to divide the values. You will have to determine and gain your own experience on how to do that consistently then. Okay? So from here then we can move on to example number 2. And in example number 2, well, part 2 of question 3. So we just did 3A, we're going to be doing 3B. Now 3B states here that a 6-book packet is on sale at a back to school expo at a cost of $138.45. We are to determine the change a customer will receive from a $500 note if they wish to purchase 15 similar books. Believe it or not, quite a few students had a challenge. One thing that I did in fact recognize, not only with the students that I'm currently teaching, but I also recognize with many students right across the Caribbean, students who have taught online, face-to-face, the articulation of your mathematical equations and solutions are not being done correctly. So a lot of my students got the marks for the answers because I didn't in fact understand what they were trying to relay to me. But you want to also be able to articulate yourself well so that when the examiner at CXC is marking your paper, he won't have a problem in understanding if you understand or comprehend the problem. Alright, so you want to ensure that you have a proper layout. Now if you notice how I've laid out all my problems here, let me just zoom out for you. Notice how I've done my problems in steps and stages. This is how you want to do your problem. Alright, so here I'm just gonna go right ahead and just clean up this section here for you. And whether it be direct or indirect proportionality, you always start by writing down the information that is provided to you about the question. So it did say here that a 6-book packet will cost a customer $138.45. So this simply means then I need to find out what would be the cost of 1 book. And this is a clear indication of direct proportionality because we are now decreasing the quantity of book. So by decreasing the quantity of book, the price is also going to decrease. That's clear indication of direct proportionality. So 1 book then obviously is going to cost me less, and less means to divide. So that's 138.45 divided by 6. So 138.45 divided by 6, that's going to give me 23.07. A lot, well, 075. So you could write 08, 07, 075, you know. I just wrote down 07 for my answer. 1 cent won't make much of a significant difference. So that's $23.07. And a lot of my students struggled with finding this solution because once again, this is where you guys are having the problem. Not only is the English the problem, but you guys are struggling a lot with your reasoning ability, your reasoning of the question. Do I multiply? Do I divide? Which one do I do in which situation? There's no shortcut around this, guys. Your reasoning skills have to improve for you to consistently get solutions to these questions. So now that I have the cost of one book, this customer wishes to buy 15 of these books. So it's going to be 15 multiplied by 2307, and that will give you a result here of, if I remember correctly, I think it was 347.95. I think it was. Let's just double check on that, guys. 15 multiplied by 2307. So 50, nothing is wrong in double checking, guys. 15 multiplied by 2307. Okay, so I got 346.05. Pardon me, guys. So it's 346.05 and not 95. So that is going to be 05. Now we want to know the change that the customer is going to get after they have paid the bill from a $500 note. So therefore it's going to be $500 minus, whoops, let's write that a little better. So that's going to be $500 minus 347.05. And that's going to give us 153.95. Right? So quite a few of my students did in fact get the answer right, but a lot of my students also, I think this question varies around the 60-40 or 55-45, with 55 and 60 being students getting this question correctly. The other 45 and 40% were students that made the error, some really appalling error, that is, as well. So we definitely want to get these tapped down, because when we reach into much more difficult topics, guys, we want these to be our bonus points on our exam, if these questions were to come on the exam. All right, beautiful question there. Still love that one. All right, let's move on then to question 4a. We are fast approaching the end of the exam paper, so let's wrap this up, guys. We have 15.75% of your total salary is to be put towards your college tuition fund to start the fall semester. Now, if your savings for a month is $420, calculate the total salary for a given month. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of an accountability for how I worded this question. My intent was to say 15.75% of your total salary is to be put toward your college tuition fund for savings. I kind of may have misled a few of my students, so I'm going to take accountability for the wording of the question. But we've done questions of similar nature like this in my live classes, so I kind of expected my students to really wrap their minds around this one. It was quite interesting that 40% of the students got it right and 60% of the students got this question incorrect. And so they weren't able to interpret that I'm not asking them to find 15.75% of 420. I'm actually telling them that 15.75% is equal to the 420. So one of the major errors that students made when it comes to this problem here, let me just erase this section here. Give me a second, guys. So one of the major errors that I saw popping up on a lot of the papers, the papers that were submitted, where a lot of students were saying 15.75% is equal to 15.75, and they were putting it over 100 and they were multiplying it by 420. Because reading the question, and once again this brings us back to reasoning. Were you asked to find 15.75% of 420, or were you told that 15.75% of your total salary is to be put towards your savings for your college tuition fund? So this is a huge error that was made by students. Some students also converted the mixed fraction to an improper, so they also said 4 multiplied by 15 is 60. 60 plus 3 is 63. Some put it over 400. Some of you guys put 63 over 4, times it by 420. It was just very chaotic on some of the papers. So going forward, guys, what we want to do is ensure that we read the question and reason out whether you're being asked to find a percentage of the quantity or is the percentage equal to the quantity. Well, in this case here, 15.75% is actually equal to 420. Now, this question can be resolved in two ways. We can in fact convert the mixed fraction here, and we can say 4 multiplied by 15 is 60. 60 plus 3 is 63 over 4%, and equate that to 420. Of course, using our direct proportional skills, where we stated that in order to find the total, we need to find the value of 1 share. And in this case, we're talking about percentage, so we need to find 1%. So 1% then is going to be equal to 420 divided by, say here, 63 over 4. So 420 then, using the KFC method, 420, whoops, oh, that's a nice circle. Okay, so that's 420, keep the first, change the middle, and flip the last. That's going to be 4 over 63. Then you will find here that this works out nicely to be equal to 26.66 or 26.67. So this then works out to be equal to 26.67. And if we want the total salary, then total is 100%. Therefore, it's going to be 100 multiplied. Let's write that a little bit better, guys. 100 multiplied by 26.67. That's going to give us $2,667. Let me just double check on that, because I kind of have the solutions in my head. So let me just double check on that. That's going to be 420 multiplied by 4 divided by 63. Yes, 26.666, 26.67 then. All right, and so that is one way of doing it. Now, other students did in fact convert the 15 3/4 to a decimal. So they did say 15 3/4 is 15.75% equals to 420. And so of course what they did here is that they said 1% is equal to 420 divided by 15.75, and they got an answer also of 26.67. that's equal to 100 multiplied by 26.67, which works out to be 2,667. So a few of you guys use some, different approaches to get to the answer. All right, another way that you can actually do this is to divide 100 by 15.75 and hence multiplying that result by 420. So let's see if we can get the same answer. We can go ahead and say how many 15 3/4% can we get from 100? So 100 divided by 15.75, that's going to give us 6.349, and if you multiply that by 420, you'll find that we get an answer of 2,666.66, which is approximately 2,667 or 2,666.67. all right, so a couple of ways to really approach that question. That would be entirely up to your comfort there to solve that particular problem. All right, so already guys, hope that you guys are getting the full understanding of what was required for this exam. All right, and there's going to be more exams coming up, guys, so just take the opportunity here to learn and improve your skill set here. All right, now Doing part 4b, we were given a particular table where we were asked to do some conversions from fractions to decimal, decimal to percentage, percentage to decimals, decimals back to fraction. Now the whole entire question is worth 6 marks, and in bold and underlined I stated to my students that to earn the full 6 marks, writing down the answers in the column will only give you half its value, but you must indicate how these solutions were attained. All right, so for 11 over 17, then we know that for 11 over 17 we could use long division, but that wasn't a requirement. All I had to do was here just type this on my calculator, and we did that earlier. We got 0.647, and if we round this off we'll get approximately, well, 0.647 is fine, or we can just simply say or 0.65. all right, and of course if you wanted to convert then the decimal of 0.65 to a percentage, we're going to say 0.65 times 100, and that will give us 65%. So from a decimal, from a fraction to a decimal, we can just insert the fraction into the calculator. It spits out the decimal, and from the decimal to the percentage, we're going to then multiply by 100. All right, so therefore then, so therefore then we can go ahead and put, say here, 0.65 along with the working out at the back, and 65%. Some students wrote 64, wasn't too hard on them. I gave them the full marks regardless. All right, now if you're going in this direction, it's evident that we're doing some sort of multiplication. That means if you're asked to go back to this direction, we're going to be doing some sort of division. So if we want to convert this 0.8 here back to a fraction, then the number of decimal places behind the point will determine the power of 10 that we will then divide that digit by. So because we have one digit behind the point, and that is 8, we can simply take the 8 here, we can take the 8 and divide it by 10 and reduce the fraction here. 2 into 8 4 times, 2 into 10 5 times. So that would be the fractional equivalent of 0.8. So we have 4/5, we have 0.8, and of course having 0.8, if we multiply 0.8 times 100, you will find here that we get 80%. all right, so we needed the students, I needed you guys to show me at least how you got your answer. So we can therefore go ahead and insert here 4 over 5, so that is 4, pardon me guys, that's going to be 4 over 5. For those of you who wrote 8 over 10, I gave it a mark and I reduced the fraction for you, as you will see on your paper. And also here, this is going to be 80% here. All right, 94, because we're going backwards, we're going to be dividing by 100. That should give us 0.94. So that is 0.94. Once again, guys, I encourage all my students to at least, just at least, show the working out for the question. So you want to go ahead and somewhere on your paper you can show that 94, so 94 divided by 100 on the calculator gives us 0.94. And of course, if we take the 94 then and put it over 100 and reduce it using a common factor, you'll find that we end up with 2 into 94 goes 47, and 2 into 100 goes 50. So the fractional equivalent would have been 47 over 50, and the decimal equivalent would have been 0.95. So we have 47 over 50. So we have 47 over 50, and we have 0.94. all right, so had you done that, you would have garnered full 6 marks on the exam paper. Once again, guys, you can see just by the layout here, I've explained to you, this is how CSEC wants you to show your solution. They want you to be able to gain that distinction by giving them or showing them that you comprehensively understand the concept of the questions. All right, beautiful, 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 beautiful. All right, let us track on here to part 5 or question 5, I believe. So we'll finish with part B. So we're going to be going on to part 5 of this paper here. So part 5 then becomes, or question 5 here becomes the ratio. A certain amount of money was shared in the ratio 3 to 7 to 5 amongst 3 siblings, Sam, Mary, and John. Now, Sam receives $1,500 less than Mary. We are then to use that information provided to determine the amount of money that was shared amongst the siblings, and we are also to express the percentage of the total that John and Sam receive together. Now, when I produced this paper physically to my students, the John section was omitted, and so they did only calculated Sam percentage of the total, but the question was structured to calculate Sam and John's percentage. How much did John and Sam received as a percentage out of the total split that was done? All right. Now, I did in fact give my students a 3-step process to solving this question here. Step number 1 is to write down the comparative quantities and their individual ratios. So we are then comparing Sam. So we're then comparing Sam to Mary, to John, and the individual ratios were 3 compared to 7 compared to 5. That is step 1. I've given my students half mark just for doing that. All right. I encourage my students to follow steps. Please follow the steps, guys. You won't go wrong. If you try another method, you will find inconsistency. All right. So then next then is to find what is known as the TP, the total proportion. That is to add up all the shares. That is 3 plus 7 plus 5. And in this case here, we end up with a total proportion of 15 shares. Now, here's where a lot of students got tongue twist and brain bent. They were unable to interpret whether it is that $1,500 was being shared, or did someone get exactly 1,500, or like the question states here, someone got $1,500 less or more, in this case less than someone. Again, math is not the problem here, guys. It is the reasoning and the English language of the math problem. A lot of you guys are not able to interpret the English aspect of the math, and so that you always seem to get your questions incorrect because of that very exact problem. So we need to work on that as a team. All right. Now here it's stated that we are now focusing on the comparison between Sam and Mary. So here, take my reading, Sam and Mary, Sam and Mary. It's evident why Sam would have received less than Mary, because Sam has less shares than Mary. So when you get a question of this nature, you need to produce the difference in the shares. So the difference between the amount that Sam got compared to the amount that Mary got in terms of shares would have been 7 take away 3, which is equal to 4 shares. So this 4 shares that Sam received less than Mary, or on the opposite language, this 4 shares that Mary would have received more than Sam, is the exact reason why it's equal to 1,500. So that's 4 shares equal 1,500. From this information here, we can find 1 share by using direct proportion skills. 1 share is equal to 1,500 split 4 ways, and that's going to give us the value of 1 share, which is $375. A few students did in fact get the question right, but I was still appalled by how many students got this one incorrect. I'm going to be leaning once again towards 55% of my class getting this right and 45% getting it wrong, because it came down to having an understanding of what is meant then by someone getting $1,500 less or more than someone else. All right. So reasoning, guys, and reading the question properly was a lot of you guys' downfalls. Okay? I'm sorry, I'm not sure where did all my working out go. Where did my working out go, guys? Oh my lord. Did I just erase all my working out? Where did my working out go? I'm so sorry, guys. I'm trying to find the solution here. I'm gonna have to rewrite it, guys. So Sam compared to Mary compared to John. The ratio is 3 to 7 to 5. The TP is equal to 3 plus 7 plus 5, which is equal to 15 shares. Now, since Sam and Mary, so Mary minus Sam is 7, take away 3, which is therefore equal to 4 shares. And so the 4 shares is exactly equal to 1500. So split that 1500 4 ways, and we end up with 1 share. So 1 share is equal to $375. Alright? You want to have this sort of working out, guys. So $375. Now with that $375, then that's 1 share. The question then in fact goes on to say, determine the amount of money that was shared amongst the siblings. So we know that the whole entire siblings shares got split up into 15 portions. So since one portion is $375, then we can say that the total is equal to $375 multiplied by 15, and that's going to be equal to $5,625. Alright, that would be the total shared by the siblings. And the final question then works out here to what is the percentage of the total, what percentage of the total did John and Sam receive together? As stated earlier that my students did Sam only. So John and Sam would have received, well, John would have received 5 and Sam would have received 3. So the easiest way to get the solution here would have been to say 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. So they would have received 8 out of 15 shares times 100. And if we jump onto our calculator here and we say 8 divided by 15, 8 divided by 15 times 100, you see that it's 53%. Alright, 53%. If we wanted Sam alone, then it would simply be Sam, which would have gotten just 3 out of the 15 times 100, and you would have found that Sam got 20% of the money. Therefore, John would have received 33% of the money. That is 53 minus 20, which is 33%. Alright, so there you have it, guys. That is how you would have acquired 100% on this particular exam. I believe that the paper was constructed at least 95% properly. Apart from that question that I could have worded a little bit better, I feel like this paper comprehensively covered a lot of what was done during the period of September the 12th through to October the 8th, or I believe October the 15th. Alright, so I do hope that once you have found yourself coming to the end of this video and you've found some level of benefit towards this video, then please leave a like, leave some comments, leave some suggestions, leave some recommendations and commendations in the comments below, and I will continue to make more videos, more practice videos like this for you in upcoming months. Alright, please, if you'd like to join my online class that is held on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. to 8:30, you can find contact details in the description of this video, And of course, I'll see you in the next upload. I'll see you for my Thursday's class, October the 17th, 2024. Until next time, take care. My name is Akin, your math guru, CSEC math guru, that is. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Take care. Bye.